everyone. I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle, and this is The Five. We begin today with fast-breaking developments in the aftermath of ousted FBI Director James Comey's bombshell testimony on Capitol Hill. Speaking publicly for the first time since President Trump fired him on May 9th, Comey claimed to the Senate Intelligence Committee that President Trump lied about the reason for his firing and also revealed some remarkable new information about the Hillary Clinton email investigation. But perhaps the most stunning news is that Mr. Comey admitted that he initiated a leak of one of his memos about a conversation he had with President Trump.
The President tweeted on Friday, after I got fired, that I better hope there's not tapes. I woke up in the middle of the night on Monday night, because it didn't dawn on me originally, that there might be corroboration for our conversation. There might be a tape. And my judgment was I needed to get that out into the public square. And so I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter. Didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel.
Okay, when in doubt, call a friend, Dana Perino.
Well, I think that one of the things that he did today was he solved one of the leak investigations, so we can cross that one off the list, because he was just open about it. He's like, yeah, this is what I did.
Pin the tail on the Comey.
And I think that if you
Nicely done.
If you put yourself in his shoes and you know what's coming, and that I think that because it was not a classified document, it was his own notes, and he got his story out there first. I mean, I think any one of us, if we'd had the president's in mind in order to protect ourselves, we might have done the same thing.
All right, Greg, what did you make of this? Any surprises for you? And
actually, I think that is a surprise.
Yeah.
You know, they want the media and the left. They wanted Watergate. They got a water balloon because everything we found out about Trump, we already know he's a Queens roughneck who sells real estate. This is what he does. We elected a bull in a china shop. What a hearing is everybody sweeping up the broken china. But this is what you get. He didn't break any laws. I'm getting a little tired of Comey's homey, folksy persona. It's like he's from Yonkers, okay? He keeps morphing into Comey Pyle. It's like he keeps saying Lordy. He's like a pearl-clutching senior who's upset about the short skirts on the Five. It's just I just find it a bit little. I find it a little strange, and I don't know. And I actually have to say, he didn't do himself a lot of good. He admitted he's a leaker, and that hurts his credibility, and it should.
All right, and for the record, this is a dress, not a skirt. All right, Chris.
I was channeling my mother when she used to call. She goes, "Can't they wear longer skirts?"
We're trying. All right, so
Lordy.
Chris, welcome to the Five tonight.
It's great to be here. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you guys.
Hardworking today, was listening with rapt attention to your discussion.
Dana and I started out the day cracking walnuts on this thing. And
there were not even walnuts. There was no snacks. We got to work on that next
well,
time.
we don't get the deli tray that you guys get here down in Washington. We buy it out of the vending machine.
Yes, we're big time.
So today was important. It couldn't have lived up to the hype, possibly, that it had been wreathed in, that it was going to be this apocalypse, as Greg said, it was going to be the Watergate hearings, it was going to be all this stuff. We forget, when we compress history, when we look back and we think, well, it was ABC, boom, and then Nixon resigned, or it was ABC and Bill Clinton was impeached. In reality, this stuff plays out over long stretches of time. Today was a very important day. James Comey acquitted himself well. There were bad things in it for the president, but there were good things in it for the president. And the good thing in it for the president was this. Comey was absolutely clear that Donald Trump was right, that Comey had told him that he was, as of Comey's departure, not the subject, personally, of a criminal investigation.
Mm-hmm. So that vindicated the president. It's consistent with the president's statements when he said it on 3 separate occasions.
Put it in the letter.
And then with his attorney's statement yesterday, that has to be construed, I think, as a win for the White House in terms of removing itself somewhat from that cloud.
Absolutely. It's a much-needed credibility for the president on that question. That was a weird thing that he inserted in the letter, that when he put it in the Comey firing letter, why did you say that? Well, here's why he said it, because it was true, and that's why I put it in there.
Okay, Richard, how did you see it today? Were you disappointed in any way?
No, well, here's the thing. I think there was a lot of, build up to this big Comey hearing hashtag. I know Greg hates when I say that. But here's the things that I think we did learn, right? So we learned the president wasn't under investigation. But if you look at all the statements released by both his $1,500 an hour criminal attorney, or what the statement that we got from the White House is that, he wasn't There was no present tense here. So that could mean a lot of things. It could mean that he's currently under. It could that they're predicting that he could be under. And I mean, I think there's 3 instances that you could point to where there could be a possibility
So could all
of
of
an
us, though.
obstruction
I mean,
of
that
justice.
kind of speculation doesn't really...
No, of course. I mean, it's absolute speculation, right? But I think here's where I think this is why it was a good day for Comey and a good day for the FBI. And that is because he got a chance to sort of clear the air, say why he did what he did and why he did it, why he leaked the information, because he thought he sort of created some breadcrumbs for Mueller to follow as they do their Mueller to follow while they do their investigation. So he's like, I leaked this thing, even though it wasn't classified. It was my own work product, and I leaked it to sort of say, hey, listen, there's a bigger flag here. And I think why it was bad for the White House was the moment where he talks about the meeting with him and the president, right, where his superior was asked to leave the room, and his superior lingered. And Jeff Sessions was like, I don't know. I mean, that's like the double thinking. And the president's like, get out, get out, get out, get out, get out. So it could just be me and Comey, and we can have this conversation. And that is problematic.
But no, here's why it's problematic, okay?
To do it, though.
He didn't obstruct justice. He just made Comey feel weird inside. I feel so queasy inside. Look, a lot of people make me feel uncomfortable. I take the subway every day. They can't be arrested for making me uncomfortable. This is like a Rorschach test. You can see whatever you want in this.
Yeah.
If you don't like Trump, you see him as a nefarious demon. If you love him, you think of him as an innocent victim. If you're in the middle, you see a guy, Comey, who got fired by a guy who fires people when he thinks he can't trust you. That's as simple as that.
But trust you to do what? That was what the crux of the hearing was.
It's clear that you can't trust Comey because the only person he wanted to take notes on was Trump.
I mean, here's the...
Chris has a comment, too.
Go ahead. Well, what I was going to say was how impressed I was today with Comey, but also with the Senate. I was impressed at a time when people in America wonder, do systems work? Yeah. Can things function? Can we do this? Or does it all devolve into partisan garbage every time? Does it turn into an absolute disaster every time we try to do something? Everybody in that room acted like an adult. Everybody asked good questions. People took their obligations seriously. They rose to the moment. I think we need more of this for the country to show people at home it still works. The Republic is
Kamala Harris in that?
I thought she did just fine.
None of her questions could be answered.
Well, John McCain did not have
a strategy.
Yeah, I know.
John McCain did not have a super day, but as he said, he stayed up too late watching the Diamondbacks game.
He was making a subtle point.
I agree with Chris on this point. I think what we saw was actual bipartisanship, something that's been absent from Washington for almost a decade.
They were well prepared.
They were well prepared. They had a good conversation with Comey. I think Comey was a very excellent witness. He had no notes. He spoke from the heart. He went into detail and explained a lot of the situations, and I think to some extent he benefited the White House in certain places when he sort of explained how things happened, but he also benefited, people who are out there saying that we think that Donald Trump colluded with the Russians.
I saw such a different hearing than you guys. I'm sorry. I saw an emotional salvo. His opening statement, he was the good cop who had been done wrong. It was like an Aaron Sorkin drama.
But what happened to the good cop?
Emotions. No, but it was emotional. He felt pain. He felt hurt. He was a wounded man.
That was his biggest complaint.
Yeah, he was like a guy who was dumped.
He got fired for pretty much.
He can get fired.
But
he can get fired.
Here's the thing.
The president can't fire him.
I get all of that, but the FBI, the reason why the FBI is created the way it is, where they have a 10-year term, is because it's supposed to be outside of the political forum.
And apparently he wasn't.
What happened here was, if Donald Trump really hated Comey so much, he should have fired him on January 21st. The fact that he waited so long to fire him.
For that.
No, I don't think so. I think it would have been less criticism.
It would have been, at least that he would have fired him before he had a private meeting with him.
Thank you.
And
we wouldn't be talking
maybe he was
about
being maybe he was being nice. Maybe he was giving him a chance.
Maybe he was giving him a chance, yeah.
But whenever you get a new boss,
well,
this
Comey
always
said
happens.
he told me, oh, you were doing a good job.
Every time I get a new boss, I get fired.
Practically speaking, it could.
Stand by for that.
Practically
It's been
speaking.
3 times.
Can I just say one thing about the hearing as well? I know we want to go to this other thing. The other thing that happened today was that the members of the Senate committee, Republican and Democrat, all agreed that, yes, the Russians were trying to interfere, and they tried a lot of things. And then they're also all agreed, and that you heard James Comey said, and it wasn't an emotional moment, it was just clear as day. He said, yes, the Russians were trying to do all of these things. We all should know that. We should all be really aware of that. No, at this point, they do not have any evidence. They did not actually alter or change one vote.
No, absolutely.
That was really important. So I think that there are some good things from the bigger picture that we know. We should really be aware that Russia is not our friend.
Right, yeah, I think that was made abundantly clear. And as you mentioned earlier, Mr. Comey accused the White House of lying about his firing.
Although the law required no reason at all to fire an FBI director, The administration then chose to defame me and, more importantly, the FBI by saying that the organization was in disarray, that it was poorly led, that the workforce had lost confidence in its leader. Those were lies, plain and simple.
And Comey confirmed that President Trump was never personally under FBI investigation, as we discussed, a fact that President Trump's attorney called vindicating.
While you were director, the President of the United States was not under investigation. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct.
The President feels completely vindicated and is eager to continue moving forward with his agenda, with the business of this country, and with this public cloud removed.
Okay, and so that was the press that everyone was waiting for today, Dana, after this concluded, to say, okay, what would President Trump's personal attorney come out and say? Overall, it seemed like this was a good day for them, and if you're counsel for the president...
I think they did their best spin, right? And yeah, and I also think that the other thing they showed is that the president went to his event with the religious leaders. He gave a speech that was just roundly praised by everybody in the room. He also, this week, he announced a whole slate of judges to be confirmed. The Senate has actually said that they'll probably get those done before the August recess. You have the Senate moving forward on the health care repeal and replace bill.
Speech in Ohio.
And you know that the debt ceiling is coming. There's already discussions about that. Iran sanction bills are... So actually, policy is able to move forward at the same time. So I think that the White House, they're not out of the woods by any means on this issue. This was basically like putting another log on the fire. There's lots of inconsistencies. The Democrats are going to press. And the president didn't comment today. We might hear he hasn't commented yet. I think that was also a different strategy. But I also just go back to what James Comey was talking about the FBI is one of the reasons that this backfired politically for President Trump, because they thought that the Democrats would be thrilled because they don't like James Comey either for what they think he did to Hillary Clinton. And they believed that the FBI didn't like him. Now, maybe there were a few disgruntled employees, but the truth is James Comey is actually widely respected all across the country. He's known U.S. attorneys for years. He was the U.S. attorney here in New York. He was down there in Virginia. He worked at the Justice Department. He's been at the FBI for 8 years. So he's got allies all over the place, and that's why there was the revolt, and he felt some obligation to say something about the institution.
No tweets.
No tweets.
No tweets.
So he stayed on
and if this is
message.
If this is what, and I really believe this is a moment of opportunity for this administration in a way that we haven't seen before, because if they take to heart the seriousness, the gravity of this issue, how high the stakes are for them, and they get serious, if the president doesn't tweet rage, if we don't have incoherent statements, if they speak with one voice, and as Dana said, crucially, most importantly, his voters need to feel, not just his voters, the whole country needs to feel like there's an agenda, it's moving, something's happening,
and
they're getting action, we're doing stuff.
Yes, Dana pointed out he was quite busy this week getting a number of things done, and in fact, this went and was handled very well. Comey gave his testimony, which again was consistent with what the president said. I mean, he kept saying over and over, he told me I was not under investigation 3 times, and then this was confirmed today. It was confirmed in the statement yesterday. If I'm the president's attorney, I'm very happy because I didn't hear anything about obstruction of justice or collusion. I had my client's testimony and statements essentially validated. Prior consistent statements, so that's a credibility push right there.
But you would also tell your client, I know, because I'm...
Well, that James Comey gets queasy and wants to blend into the curtains and is terrified.
You would also tell your client, you would say, listen to me, I'm going to go out and say this was a great day for us. We killed it. I'm going to have this great press conference. But you better know that you could be in big trouble on this, and you better straighten up, fly right, and be tight. Keep that collar up and stay off the Twitters.
I agree there, but I disagree with how this White House handled it. I thought this White House was completely flat-footed today. You had one statement from this lawyer. You had no cabinet secretaries, no White House counsel.
That's exactly what I would have done.
You didn't even have GOP senators who were with the president come out and say, this is malarkey. All you had was a well-paid New York attorney come out and throw the kitchen sink.
His job.
And he threw the kitchen sink as to poke holes in Comey's testimony. Within the statement,
too many chefs spoiled the soup.
Want more people
Why would you want everybody muddying the message and being inconsistent? It's a problem.
Last week, we had the same conversation about the Street Fighters and the Lanny Davis model, and I would hope the president kept it. I think today was a bad move by him.
Well, he had his people out today
on the air.
Right. If you have one person who's consistent on their messaging, no, you don't want people giving inconsistent statements, and then everyone would sit here and criticize and say, why do you have so many people on a good day for the president? They're stepping all over themselves, and this person said this, and let's analyze.
I got to go back. It's not a good day for Comey. Come on. Rubio made a really good point about the only bad things the only things that are leaked are generally bad things, and there was that one important point that was never leaked, that he wasn't being investigated. So that shows a partisan agenda going that's involved in the leaking itself. And then saying that the leaking was in response to a tweet, that's kind of dishonest in itself. And it's not a legitimate response to a tweet because a tweet is transparent. When you tweet something, your name's behind it. When you leak something, your name's not behind it. So that's cowardice.
And we found out who leaked today.
Yeah.
The head of the FBI. I mean,
It's not a leak. To me, it wasn't classified. It was his work product.
I totally disagree with that. It's not his own personal work product.
It is his work product.
No, it is not. He is the director of the FBI.
He wrote the memo.
If I can, for 1 second, please. He is the director of the FBI. He prepared those statements, okay, and that memo contemporaneous with his experience with the president, with his conversation to memorialize it. In a court of law, that's called work product because he did that, and the conversation was part of his job, government paid as the head of the FBI. So therefore, guess what? If I'm going to court, I'm getting all of that. That's work product. That's discovery. So when he says that he's sending this to his buddy, the professor at Columbia, trust me.
And you can't trust a Columbia professor. Hey, John Roberts is waiting for us, Kimberly.
John Roberts. Counselor to President Kellyanne Conway talked with Martha MacCallum tonight where she downplayed the hoopla surrounding Comey's testimony. We might get to that in a moment, but I do believe we have John Roberts ready.
Today at the White House was business as usual. The president hosted his usual array of meetings. Every single day is doing something at that White House to move his agenda forward, and today was no different.
All right, and joining us, and there he is, the man of the hour, with more on the reaction to the Trump administration, Chief White House Correspondent John Roberts. Can you settle some disputes here for us?
Good evening to you, Kimberly. You know, we haven't heard from the president officially on all of this today, but I'm told by a source familiar with the matter that the president was very pleased with the testimony today on Capitol Hill from James Comey, first and foremost because Comey finally said in public and repeatedly that the president was not a target of the investigation and that he was not seeking to shut down the Russia investigation. The president was also, I'm told, interested to learn that Comey outed himself as the leaker and that he admitted he leaked the information in order to prompt the appointment of a special prosecutor. Now, to the president's thinking, it proved that he was right all along about not being under investigation and that people were leaking information to try to harm him. Two other questions being asked around here tonight. First of all, why was Comey so sure that Attorney General Jeff Sessions was going to recuse himself from the Russia investigation? It wasn't until about 3 weeks later that Sessions recused himself, and if you remember, that was after his meetings with the Russian ambassador became public. Comey knew about those meetings. Did he know that the information was going to come out? The other question being asked around here is the president, who is new to politics and protocol, think that it was okay to have a private meeting with the FBI director? And here's the reason why. Back on January 6th, the very first time that James Comey met the president, it was during that intelligence briefing at Trump Tower. He, at the end of the meeting, asked everyone to leave so that he could speak privately with the president about that unverified dossier. Did that precedent say to the president, hey, it's okay after a meeting to have a private meeting with the FBI director? One of the questions being asked around here. Another question, why did Comey think it was necessary after that meeting to write things down? Why did he think that the president was going to lie to him when it was Comey who asked the president for a private meeting and Comey who told the president about all this salacious information that was included in this dossier? So some things to chew over in the days ahead, I think, after the testimony today, Kimberly.
All right, John, thanks for that update. Fascinating day indeed. Greg, we're going to take it around the table real quick, get a reaction.
Trump alone with Comey, probably wrong to do it. Maybe violated some policy, but it's what he does. He violates stuff. He didn't break the law. I don't think that's anything new. However, leaking to prompt a special counsel, that's a D.C. version of tattling. Again, it's really weak. I find him to be the most timid head of the FBI ever. Why don't you just ask Trump what he means instead of going, I'm so confused. I'm so confused. Yeah, why don't you just say, what do you want? Tell me what you want.
One of the things he said is that he was trying to protect the president from answering that question. He was trying to back off. I mean, when you're in there with the commander-in-chief, the leader of the free world, it's just a different thing than like being.
I've never been in that situation.
Then tell somebody to have like a
I would just say
that
that the real work is being done by Bob Mueller.
That's exactly
He's the special counsel, and we did have a little news from them today. One of his deputies said that he believes that this will be wrapped up in 3 months. That is good news.
Absolutely. I'm sure the White House will be happy about that, too.
So
Chris.
I think Comey definitely got his revenge on Trump. He outplayed Trump. Trump wanted to humiliate Comey. The way he did the firing, the embarrassment, all of the stuff. He wanted to send a message to Comey and all of that stuff. And as it's in life as in politics, when you try to do it with bravado and you try to stick it to the other guy and you try to do it that way, what goes around comes around.
All right, okay, quick comment here.
Listen, all I got to say is this. I don't understand why everybody's beating up on Comey here. The reason why we are
That's just
here.
me.
Yes, just you, maybe. But the reason why we are beating up on Comey is because Donald Trump is reckless. This is recklessness by this president. Meeting with him alone, his crazy Twitter fingers. This is all recklessness by the president of the United States, which is why we're here today.
But it's
period.
words
It's
and
not
not
illegal.
deeds,
It's not
Richard.
illegal.
It's
Yeah,
words
we don't
and
know
not
that.
deeds.
It's inappropriate. It's inappropriate. It's bad.
I love
It's
having an
criminal and
inappropriate
worse.
president.
It,
What's
couldn't
so
be a
wrong
bunch
with
of
having
justice.
an inappropriate
Richard, it's
president?
not
Still an
illegal to talk
investigation.
about.
There's
Yeah.
still an investigation.
it's not
And it's
illegal for the
words and it's
president.
not
still an
deeds.
investigation.
No one is dying. We're acting like he killed somebody. No, he had a private
He's reckless.
conversation.
Period.
Yeah, he had a reckless conversation.
More than
Who
one.
hasn't?
More than
The
one.
guy, that's what he did for a living.
All right, well, we'll say special counsel make a determination, but no laws were broken thus far based on what you heard today and in the statement released yesterday. He's the president of the United States. He has the right to be able to speak to whoever he wants when he wants to. We're going to play one of the biggest bombshells of the testimony ahead. Comey says he was directed to downplay the Clinton investigation by his former boss. Next, stay with us.
So remember when you were a kid and you got an ice cream cone and it dropped to the cement right as you licked it? That's how it must feel today to be a Democrat.
Thank God.
Here you think Mr. Comey was going to deliver Donald Trump on an edible platter, and instead you get Loretta Lynch. Comey told under oath that President Obama's attorney general asked him to call the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email scandal a matter, not an investigation. Roll it, Francis.
The only other consideration that I guess I can talk about in open setting is that at one point the Attorney General had directed me not to call it an investigation, but instead to call it a matter, which confused me and concerned me. But that was one of the bricks in the load that led me to conclude I have to step away from the department if we're to close this case credibly.
It confused me and it concerned me. I would file that under WOW, and it raises more questions than my question-raising farm. First, when does the hearing on this revelation begin? Lynch gave campaign language to Comey to cover up an investigation to help Hillary's campaign. That's inappropriate. We're talking Al Franken in a mesh thong. Inappropriate.
But not illegal.
Pass.
True. And how great is it? This is wonderful. How great is it that Hillary is still causing the Democrats fits? The Loretta Lynch thing is only an issue because she had to deal with the Hillary matter. Hillary really is the Democrats' unrelenting mother-in-law who comes to visit when they least want her. So in a hearing meant to hammer Trump, the previous crew gets nailed. It's like when a stink bomb goes off before you have time to throw it, you end up smelling bad the rest of the day, which is what happened to Lynch, Hillary, and yes, even Comey. His decision to obey undermines this persona of a folksy everyman just trying to do his job, when it seemed he'd do just about anything to keep his job, including look the other way.
So interesting. I know what he's
do you not
talking
understand
about.
it? Do you want me to read it again? Let's do this thing again.
I understood it.
But what are you accusing him of?
What am I accusing it?
That he
Who of?
wanted to keep
Of
his
Comey?
job.
No,
so
Loretta
therefore-
Lynch. I think
Yeah.
that what she did
But you're
is
saying
wrong.
he obeyed her instruction to call it a
Yes.
matter
Yeah.
because he wanted to
He
keep
did,
his job.
according to the testimony, that's kind of what he implied. He didn't like it. It made him feel uncomfortable.
But-
because everything makes him feel uncomfortable, Chris. Mean people make him feel uncomfortable.
No, I get it. But
Should have a different
when
job.
he talked about Hillary Clinton, and
Yes.
he called it an investigation.
Yes, he did. He did. But he didn't
He
tell
didn't
her, he
obey.
didn't question her. He didn't feel that was inappropriate. He didn't leak that.
Right.
Why didn't he leak that?
Did you miss the big press conference that he gave talking about Hillary Clinton's emails?
Yes, I know.
Both
but,
of them?
but he didn't
Clearly,
leak
you
this.
missed them.
Well,
he
and
didn't
if
leak
President
this
Trump, the
until now.
conversations were so
Unquestionably.
inappropriate, he didn't offer to resign like he did before
So this is
without
not a big
Trump.
deal?
Greg,
All right.
James
Hey,
Comey
but there's a
unquestionably has a bad
Ooh,
habit
I'm too on this.
of placing himself in a position above everyone else. He did it in this case. He did it in the Hillary Clinton case. He said, I have deemed that no one here, he did it in 2004, no one here is decent enough. Only I, James Comey, have the moral gravamen so that I can stand above all of this and make a judgment. Right. And when he does it, he gets himself in trouble. That having been said, he did it with Hillary Clinton and then he did it with Donald Trump. I had to go outside the lines because I was the last honest man. That has been a problem for him. But in this case, he roasted Hillary Clinton.
I know.
He did not
We're talking
obey.
about this interesting thing that we just found out now. We just found out now, which is obviously has something to do with the tarmac as well.
But that was gross. What she did, what the Attorney General did was gross. But that's not on Comey.
No, well, kind of. It's on her. What did you miss the first part of the monologue?
But he
what are you snorting?
But he didn't obey.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, he kind of did.
Not
he
really.
did. Yes, he did. When he said go, yes.
Can I just say this?
Sure.
So today, this is an overall bad day for the Justice Department in the United States, whether it's the Jeff Sessions Justice Department or the Loretta Lynch Justice Department. The high road here is this. The Justice Department is supposed to be beyond reproach. Today, we found out that both Jeff Sessions and Loretta Lynch are below reproach, period.
All right, what do you think, Kimberly?
You know, I think it was, very bad day, I think, for Hillary Clinton. Bad day for Loretta Lynch. Bad day for Comey. Very bad day for Comey's, phone a friend.
Don't forget Jeff Sessions.
Phone a
Bad
friend.
day for Jeff Sessions.
The Columbia professor, that was not good for him. Jeff Sessions, probably not a great day for him either.
Bad day.
When you're handing out all these bad day cards,
Robert Rubenstein,
the president doesn't get a bad day card.
He absolutely
gets a
gets
good
a bad day card.
I don't think so.
At the top of Comey,
I don't think so. If Comey thought it was so bad, he should have got all the quees and then handed the resignation or typed one up and then hit save draft.
KG, I love you. I love you. I do. But with that being said, let's be real. The beginning of Comey's testimony starts with saying the president is a liar, right? Which we find out to be true because he told Lester Holt in the interview that I indeed fired Comey because of the Russian election, not because of this memo, not because of anything else. That means our president's a liar. That's a bad day.
Wait, are you telling me there's somebody in the White House that has lied? This has got to be a first. We need that breaking news sound to come in right now. And we actually have a president who doesn't tell the truth.
This is the guy who says,
you remember Bill Clinton?
Every other word. He says, believe me, every other word.
Yes.
We can't believe him.
We know who we elected. We know who we elected.
Well, don't believe him.
Well, we know who we elected. Thoughts, Dana?
Well, maybe one thing. So we mentioned 2004, and in fact, I think it was Tom Cotton, the senator from Arkansas. Thank you. Who asked James Comey to talk about in 2004, you went to the bedside of Ashcroft and all this stuff happened. But it sounds similar, right? But here's a big difference. George Bush didn't fire him because the aftermath of the consequences of firing him, I actually never asked him if he wanted to fire him. He probably didn't. But there would have been consequences for it. There are consequences for things that you do. The other thing is that...
But he thought that was so bad that he thought about resigning, and he didn't. What they said,
that's right, but
here's what fire you, would you still be doing your job as FBI director? Meaning you wouldn't have resigned? No, I would still be doing it.
The big difference, too, was that actually it was about a program for intelligence. We're on a war footing, and we were able to work with Congress in order to get the policy worked out and put in legislation in a way that everybody could accept. That's one of the ways that you handle things in Washington. It's kind of old-fashioned. The other thing is that the tarmac meeting with Lynch and Clinton, I think there wasn't enough questioning about that in terms of how inappropriate did he think that was at the time. We all thought it was highly inappropriate.
So
then, how inappropriate might it then be? You could see why people would ask, why is it inappropriate for the president to ask everybody to leave and meet with the FBI director? There are parallels here, both sides having a problem.
All right, let's move on. Let's play some more sound from the Comey hearing today. Here's the former FBI director on the subject of Russia's meddling in our election.
The Russians interfered in our election during the 2016 cycle. They did it with purpose, they did it with sophistication, they did it with overwhelming technical efforts, and it was an active measures campaign driven from the top of that government. There is no fuzz on that.
Chris, this is really the overarching message here. The fact that no matter what's going on, they may not have hacked the election, but they undermined our institutions just by having us go through all this.
Right. And what the grave necessity for both parties is to understand Russia is, as some guy who was running for president one time said, America's #1 geopolitical foe. And it was something Democrats didn't used to take seriously. Now there are some Republicans who, and I think it's a relatively speaking small number.
So good day also, I'd like to say, for Romney then.
Yes, that's right. Every day.
Another
Every day's a good day. Every day's a good day for Mitt
You know
Romney.
what? The
Because he
hair.
has-
He
Yes.
doesn't have to be
Hair is-
Secretary
The
of State.
best-looking guy who ever ran for president.
And he doesn't have to be Secretary of State.
Makes it an even better day for me.
And he got
That's
to
right.
eat at John George,
That's
Yes.
right.
where they
But-
had the cotton candy for dessert.
But this has been a good experience for America because we've had Democrats had to come to terms with what Russia represents in the world stage, and now Republicans are having to come to terms with, yeah, they were definitely involved in this election, and that's too bad.
Yeah, so they interfered, but no votes were there wasn't a manipulation or hacking of the voting system, machines, or anything like that. And there was also today no evidence of collusion by the president or by his transition or his campaign with Russia, so far anything that we've heard of.
Right.
And there was also no evidence proffered of obstruction of justice, and also no resignation contemplated by Jim Comey, who has thought about that in the past when he's been that disturbed by behavior, actions, conduct.
Richard, this interference in the election happened under President Obama. Why wasn't he impeached?
Oh, Lord.
Richard?
Maybe he thought the Russians were just JV. The Russians were
Carrie
just
Underwood
JV.
reference. Love it.
So here, all right. So I will give you the fact that we Democrats have said for a long time the Russians gauge our elections, even though people didn't believe us when we
I
said
thought we
it.
all felt that way.
But we now know that it is true.
Yeah.
And so here's my thing. I like I said, and I think what we learned today was we saw bipartisanship in the Senate, and I think there's two tracks here. You have this investigation is happening with the special counsel, and that is one thing. And you have the Senate investigation. The Senate investigation is fact-finding, and hopefully this would urge our members of Congress to modernize our voting system so we won't be able to get hacked by the Russians, period. And hopefully when the smaller investigation is done, we'll figure out what happened and what didn't happen. Where I disagree with you, Kimberly, is on this point of, yes, the president wasn't under investigation. And if you notice every statement that has been released, the key word there is past tense, wasn't, right? And the White House cannot, as of today, say that the president isn't under investigation, and that for me is problematic.
But they can't. But we can't
There's
say
no
that he
evidence.
is. I mean,
But why?
suggest
But if he
that.
wasn't, if he wasn't,
But that would be true for everybody
That's
in
my
all
point.
lives
They don't
every
know.
day.
They
I
don't
don't think
know.
that's fair. to
I'm
them.
currently not under
so
investigation.
but I know that I am not currently
Debatable.
under investigation.
No, you don't.
How do you know that?
You do not know that.
You don't know that.
There's a 5 investigation.
You don't
on
know.
you.
I hired
pretty sure
I
I
hired a
would know if I
PI,
was under
Richard. I
investigation.
know what you've been doing.
But the point is,
Remember we said you were in kindergarten?
all of the stuff here, this was a piece, this was a little window into what's going on. As you point out, what Mueller's doing is the real thing. The best news, arguably, out of a tough day for the White House may be what Dana said.
3
that
months.
It could be 3 months from the finish line, and that this could be over. And
Could
as-
be a bad finish, though.
Well, but as Trump said to Comey, I thought something very revealing that Comey said was that Trump told him, hey, if I've got any satellites, anybody who works for me who did bad things, let's find that out. I want to know that now, not later. So this is the president saying, and that was the key part of Rubio's line of questioning, which was Trump was not looking to quash the investigation. He said, if you got it, let it rip. Let's get there. I want to
Get
find
him
out
out.
about it.
Yeah.
If I have satellites, people who work for him, presumably, that did wrong things, he wants to know about it. So if this moves to the terminal phase quickly, within 3 months, that would be great news for this administration because they could get over it and move on.
And they
as
want to
opposed
get
spend
things
3
done. They
years
want
doing
to
it.
accomplish and move on their
I think
agenda.
if that was the case, and I would hope the president would urge some of these individuals that that could be involved to move a little bit quicker. They haven't said he tweets all this stuff about Democrats and mainstream media, but he's never once tweeted to Mike Flynn say, "Hey, can you give the Senate the information so we can move on?"
I think Flynn. I think the
Or Paul
president's concern-
Manafort.
I think the president's concern
Or
about
Carter
Flynn and
Page.
Manafort is that they may be very shared.
Can maybe this is going to take too long to explain, Dana, but I do think McCain got a raw deal on what he was trying to explain.
I think that McCain was trying to get to the point that you were making in your
Yeah.
monologue about the Lynch piece.
Yeah.
And people made fun of him that it was confused or whatever. I actually thought that the hearing writ large was actually very good. And
Yeah.
McCain was trying to, it seemed that he was disturbed, like, wait a minute, am I the only one who heard him say that there was this Lynch piece? And so he was trying to drill down on that. The other thing is that's happening right now, and from the bigger picture standpoint, is the Senate is also moving forward with sanctions on Russia, as well as Iran. And because now it seems like there is agreement, bipartisan agreement on the Senate Intelligence Committee that Russia was trying to do these things, these sanctions actually might be a bipartisan endeavor that is signed by the president at the end of the day.
All right, well, let's finish.
I hate that phrase.
Well, it's okay. End of the day is
Trying
okay.
to wrap up the section.
Okay, there's a lot of work.
he
There's a
hates
lot of things I
nothing
hate.
burger. Nothing
I
burger
can't
he
keep
hates.
track anymore. All right, a lot of Democrats suddenly love James Comey again after his testimony today. You'll hear some of the reaction in the mainstream media's take next.
To continue tonight with our top story, James Comey's historic testimony on Capitol Hill today. You probably remember that Mr. Comey upset many Democrats with his handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation, especially his decision to announce the probe had been reopened just 11 days before the election. Here's how Democrats reacted to today's testimony.
Well, I found it quite stunning. It's not every day you have a former director of the FBI saying that he couldn't trust the president.
What we saw today was that the president demanded loyalty. He wanted the case against his friend Michael Flynn to go away, and that he obsessively hounded the FBI director.
We saw confirmation in Director Comey's resolute testimony detailing the frightening reality of President Trump's pattern of contempt for justice.
And here's a flavor of how the media is reacting to Comey's day on the Hill.
There is no other way to walk away from Comey's testimony today without thinking that the former director of the FBI thinks the president of the United States is a liar.
The assumption of the critics of the president, of his pursuers, you might say, is that somewhere along the line in the last year, the president had something to do with colluding with the Russians. And yet what came apart this morning was that theory.
He might not be a Democrat, he might not be a Republican, but boy, is this guy political. He's not just a Pollyanna Boy Scout. He wants to affect something.
You said, yeah. Okay, so there's a mix of things, but Chris, what Chris Matthews was saying was actually good for President Trump.
Right, very much so. And to the end that Democrats are playing this wrong, they need to be highly conscious. If you set this up as was it you who said on a edible platter, Donald Trump on an edible platter,
A taco
bowl, put a wall around your taco. If you, as a Democrat, say, and Comey will destroy, and all things are coming, and and you do all this stuff, we were talking basically about how long was that? 2 hours.
2.5 hours.
2.5 hour interview about a few meetings and some notes. This was a snapshot that had splurped by Comey's intent into the public space. They were able to talk about it in open. They couldn't talk about it. They had already talked about all of this stuff behind closed doors. Now they were able to talk about it in the open. They had a little discussion about it, and the beat goes on. Democrats played it up to such a degree that anything short of instant Twitter-fried impeachment of Donald Trump seems like a disappointment.
That's right. And also the Democrats, we see them, they love Comey, they hate him. It's like they're on again and off again.
They're on and off like porn stars in a hurricane.
Wow, yeah.
I find it interesting that you can't tell the difference. Yeah, you can't tell the difference between Kurt. Is that a throwback to Kurt? What's his face?
I can.
Oh yes. Anyway, look that up. Tucker did that earlier. Look.
Now I'm blushing.
The media is learning. As we already
I was told this is a family show.
But I just noticed the reaction of the Democrats and the media is often interchangeable, and we are the oasis of balance in a sea of barking bias. So I like it. But Scott Adams has this great metaphor about how America's watching two movie screens, and in one movie screen, Trump is evil, and the other movie screen, he's just fine. And every now and then, they collide. And today is a perfect example of when they collide, when you have everybody sitting around a table who had watched two different movies.
And the Democrats are the ones with, like, the 3D IMAX. I was like, whoa! They're like, Russians everywhere. I'm freaking out and itching. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, and I'm the one that snuck in a bottle of vodka.
So, Richard, are you swiping right on Comey now?
No, I've said all along, and I will say it again. I think I've said it on this show. I think Democrats have a bad strategy. This is a slow car wreck, right? We don't want to see, what we got to do is just.
It's in the fast lane now.
It is.
It really
It might be a fast car wreck, but the moral of the story here is you just got to watch the car wreck happen. Don't engage. Don't push the car. Just let the car wreck happen. Because I do believe that this White House, over time, just based upon their antics, will disintegrate, right? And so, because of that.
And I'm so sorry. Go where?
I think his agenda could disintegrate. Disintegration.
I think that is wishful thinking. I think the Republicans found no reason today to walk away.
Yeah, disintegrate is Green saying he's preparing articles of impeachment.
The point I'm trying to make, KG, is this. I think Democrats need to be very quiet and let the special counsel do its job. I think it's going to turn out, we'll see what happens, but